The monitoring station floated silently above Threshold Prime, a neutral moon where the greatest powers in the galaxy gathered to keep peace. Inside the main control room, Commander Vexthari watched the screens with his many eyes. He was tall and looked like an insect with hard skin that shined under the lights. His species, the Chitauri, were known for being careful and smart. Everything had been quiet for months. The Galactic Council protected 12 different species across thousands of worlds. Wars were rare now. Pirates were hunted down. Order ruled the stars. Vexthari liked order. It made his job easier. Then the alarm sounded. A distress signal cut through the peaceful silence. Vexthari's claws moved quickly across the controls, pulling up the message. It came from New Harvest, a farming colony in the Outer Rim. The people there were Quellan, a gentle species that grew food for half the sector. They had no weapons. They had no army. They only had farms and families. The message played on the speakers. A frightened voice spoke in broken galactic common. "This is New Harvest Colony. We are under attack. The Kryn are here. They are killing everyone. Please help us, please. We have children here. Please send help." The message cut off with sounds of explosions and screaming. Vexthari felt his stomach turn cold. The Kryn horde. They were raiders and killers who lived for violence. They had terrorized the outer worlds for generations, taking what they wanted and burning the rest. The Council had tried to negotiate with them many times. It never worked. The Kryn only understood strength. Within an hour, the Galactic Council gathered for an emergency meeting. Representatives from all 12 species sat in a great circular chamber. Holograms showed New Harvest from space. Kryn ships surrounded the planet like hungry wolves. Fires burned on the surface. High Chancellor Mordith spoke first. He was old and wise, with smooth blue skin and eyes that had seen centuries pass. "We have received the distress call from New Harvest. The situation is clear. The Kryn horde is attacking in full force. We estimate 150,000 Quellan civilians are trapped on the surface." A representative from the bird-like Kastari species spoke up. "How long until we can send our fleet?" Mordith looked tired. "New Harvest is 3 weeks away at maximum speed. By the time any rescue force arrives, the colony will be destroyed." Silence filled the chamber. Everyone understood what this meant. A Selkath diplomat, her scales gleaming, asked the question no one wanted to hear. "Are we declaring New Harvest a total loss?" Mordith nodded slowly. "I see no other option. We will send a memorial fleet to recover any survivors and document what happened. But we cannot save them. We are too far away." The vote was quick. 10 species agreed. 1 abstained. 1 voted against. In the back of the chamber, almost forgotten, sat Deho. He was human, and humans were new to the galaxy. Earth had only made contact with other species 15 years ago. Most of the Council barely noticed humans existed. They saw Earth as primitive and backward. Human technology was generations behind. Human ships were slow. Humans had nothing important to offer. Deho was only a junior liaison. He had no vote. He could only watch and report back to Earth. But as he listened to the Council abandon New Harvest, something burned in his chest. He remembered Earth's history. He remembered times when help didn't come, when people were left to die alone. His hand moved to his communicator. He typed a short message to Earth's United Defense Command. The message was simple. New Harvest Colony under attack by Kryn horde. 150,000 civilians trapped. Council will not respond in time. Coordinates attached. He sent it without asking permission. On Earth, in a building in Geneva, Fleet Admiral Jiwan sat in her office late at night. She was going over supply reports when the message arrived. She read it once, then twice. Her jaw tightened. Jiwan was a veteran. She had fought in Earth's unification wars when nations still fought each other, instead of working together. She had seen cities burn. She had pulled children from rubble. She knew what it meant to be abandoned and forgotten. She picked up her phone and called the UDC Command Center. "This is Admiral Jiwan. Authorize immediate deployment of the Indomitable. Captain Hyunwoo is in command. Mission priority is rescue of New Harvest Colony. Full authority granted." The officer on the other end hesitated. "Admiral, New Harvest is 5 weeks away by standard drive." "We can't possibly. We have the jump drive," Jiwan interrupted. "It's experimental, but it works. This is exactly why we built it." She hung up before anyone could argue. Captain Hyunwoo received his orders 30 minutes later. He was young for a captain, only 35 years old, but he had proven himself in combat simulations and deep space missions. His crew trusted him. The UDC trusted him. Now he had to trust the jump drive. The Indomitable was humanity's newest warship. She was sleek and fast, built with technology that humans had developed on their own. While other species used energy shields and plasma weapons, humans had perfected railguns and missiles. The galaxy thought these weapons were primitive. Humans knew they were deadly. The jump drive was different. It bent space in ways that Council scientists said were impossible. Instead of pushing through space, it folded space and stepped through. In theory, it could cut weeks of travel into days. In practice, it had only been tested in the Sol system. No one knew if it would work across the galaxy. Hyunwoo gathered his crew of 800. They were soldiers, pilots, engineers, and doctors. He looked at their faces and told them the truth. New Harvest is being destroyed right now. The Council says it's too far away to save. They're probably right. We might get there too late. The jump drive might fail and kill us all. But there are 150,000 people on that planet who are dying while we stand here talking. He paused. I'm going. Anyone who wants to stay behind, no judgment. This isn't an order. It's a choice, no one left. Engineer Minseo ran final checks on the jump drive. Her hands shook slightly as she worked. She had designed half of this system. She knew every way it could fail. But she also knew it was their only chance. The Indomitable launched from Earth orbit 2 hours after receiving orders. The crew strapped in. The jump drive powered up, filling the ship with a strange humming sound. Minseo watched her screens, praying the math was right. Hyunwoo gave the order. Jump, space twisted. The ship vanished from Earth in a flash of light so bright that Council sensors 3 sectors away detected it. Something had just moved faster than anything ever recorded. Inside the ship, the crew felt like they were being pulled apart and squeezed together at the same time. The jump lasted only seconds, but it felt like hours. When it ended, they were thousands of light years from Earth. Minseo checked their position and smiled despite the pain in her head. It worked. We're halfway there. Time to New Harvest? Hyunwoo asked. 72 hours if the drive holds together. 72 hours. 3 days. The Council said 3 weeks. Humans had just changed what was possible. Now they had to arrive in time to matter. Behind them, Earth waited. Ahead of them, New Harvest burned. And somewhere in between, the galaxy was about to learn that humans don't abandon people just because saving them is hard. New Harvest was dying. The farms that once grew food for millions were now burning fields. Smoke filled the air. Buildings collapsed under Kryn weapons fire. The screaming never stopped. Yunmi ran through the burning streets, helping Quellan families reach the underground shelters. She was human, one of only 50 who lived on New Harvest as agricultural advisors. Most of the other humans had evacuated when the first warnings came. Yunmi stayed behind. She couldn't leave these people. The Quellan were not warriors. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and large eyes meant for watching crops grow. They had never hurt anyone. They didn't understand why this was happening. Children cried for parents. Parents searched desperately for children. Yunmi guided them down into the shelter, counting heads, making sure no one was left behind. Above ground, Kryn raiders moved through the colony like a disease. They were big and strong, covered in thick scales and battle armor. They laughed as they destroyed everything. They took anything valuable and burned the rest. This was sport to them. This was fun. 3,000 Quellan crowded into Yunmi's shelter. It was meant for 500. People pressed together in the dark, trying to be quiet, trying to be invisible. Yunmi stood at the door with a plasma torch she had taken from a workshop. It was meant for cutting metal, not fighting. But it was all she had. The shelter's shields were failing. She could hear the power generators struggling. Maybe they had a few more hours. Maybe less. Yunmi recorded a message on her datapad, words for her family back on Earth. She didn't think anyone would ever hear it. But she wanted to try. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry I didn't come home when you asked. There were people here who needed help. I couldn't leave them. I hope you understand. I love you. Tell everyone I wasn't afraid at the end. She was lying about that last part. She was terrified. 72 hours had passed since the distress signal. The Galactic Council's memorial fleet was still 2.5 weeks away. Every news station in the galaxy reported New Harvest as lost. Reporters spoke sadly about the tragedy, about how terrible it was, about how nothing could be done. Then the Indomitable arrived. The ship dropped out of jump space at the edge of the system in an explosion of light and energy. Kryn sensors picked it up immediately. Their computers tried to identify the ship type. Nothing matched. It wasn't any council design they recognized. War Chief Gartok commanded the Kryn fleet from his flagship. He was massive even for a Kryn, covered in scars from 100 battles. He looked at the sensor readings and laughed. One ship, one small ship against 15 Kryn battle barges and thousands of raiders. His communications officer opened a channel. Gartok's voice boomed across all frequencies. Unknown vessel, identify yourself. This world belongs to the Kryn now. Leave or die. In the Indomitable's bridge, Captain Hyunwoo sat in his command chair. His crew looked exhausted. The jump drive had pushed them hard. Engineer Minseo reported stress fractures in the hull. Pilot Bora had barely slept in 3 days. But they were here. They had made it. Hyunwoo opened a response channel. His voice was calm and clear. Kryn Fleet, this is Captain Hyunwoo of the human ship Indomitable. You have 10 minutes to withdraw from this system. This is your only warning. Gartok laughed harder. Humans? He had never heard of humans. He pulled up a Quellan prisoner on his bridge and shot him in the head. The execution broadcast on the open channel. Come and die, little ship. We're waiting. Hyunwoo didn't respond with words. He nodded to his weapons officer. Fire. The Indomitable's railguns spoke first. Solid metal slugs accelerated to incredible speeds. They crossed the distance in seconds and slammed into the nearest Kryn battle barge. The Kryn shields were strong, designed to stop energy weapons. But kinetic weapons worked differently. The slugs punched straight through the shields like they weren't even there. The battle barge's hull tore open. Atmosphere vented into space. The ship spun out of control, its engines failing. The second Kryn ship tried to return fire, but the Indomitable was already moving. Bora flew the ship like a dancer, rolling and diving in ways that Kryn targeting systems couldn't predict. Human fighters launched from the hangar bays, small and fast, swarming the larger enemy vessels. A fusion missile struck a Kryn battle barge directly in its reactor core. The explosion was bright enough to see from the planet's surface. The shockwave pushed nearby Kryn ships off course. Chaos erupted in the Kryn fleet. They had never fought anyone like this. The human ship was smaller than theirs, but faster and more aggressive. Human weapons were primitive but devastating, and human pilots fought with a fury that seemed insane. Gartok screamed orders, trying to organize his fleet. But the Indomitable kept moving, kept shooting, kept destroying his ships one by one. On the surface of New Harvest, Yunmi heard the explosions above. She looked up at the shelter's ceiling, confused. The Kryn had been winning. Why were there explosions in orbit? Then she heard different sounds. Atmospheric entry, dropships. Her datapad beeped with an incoming signal. Military encryption. Human military encryption. All civilians, this is Lieutenant Sung Ho of the United Defense Command. We are inbound to your position. Stay in your shelters. Help is coming. I repeat, help is coming. Yunmi stared at her datapad. She couldn't breathe. Help? How? From where? The council said no one was coming. Dropships screamed through New Harvest's burning sky. They landed hard in the middle of the largest Kryn raider concentration. The ramps dropped and human marines poured out. They wore powered armor that made them look like walking tanks. Each marine carried enough firepower to take down a small building. Lieutenant Sung Ho led Bravo Company, 250 marines who had trained for exactly this kind of fight. They moved fast, using cover, supporting each other, pushing forward into the Kryn raiders with mechanical precision. The Kryn had never fought humans before. They learned quickly that humans didn't fight like other species. When the Kryn charged, expecting their enemies to fall back, humans held their ground and shot them down. When the Kryn tried to flank, humans were already there waiting. When one Marine fell, 3 more took their place. Sung Ho's tactical display showed the location of Yunmi's shelter. Bravo Company priority target is the civilian shelter 3 blocks north. Move. They fought through the streets, pushing back raiders who had terrorized New Harvest for days. Sung Ho reached the shelter door and placed breaching charges. The door exploded inward. Quellan civilians screamed and pressed back against the walls. Then they saw the Marines lowering their weapons. Sung Ho removed his helmet. He was young, maybe 25, with tired eyes and a kind smile. It's okay. We're here to help. We're human. We're friends. Yunmi pushed through the crowd. She stared at Sung Ho like he was a ghost. How are you here? The council said. They said no one was coming. They said you were too far away, Sung Ho grinned. We're not the Council. We're human, and we don't abandon people. He turned to his Marines. Set up a perimeter. Get these people to the dropships. I want everyone off this planet within the hour. In orbit, the battle reached its peak. The Indomitable had destroyed 8 Kryn battle barges, but she was paying the price. Hull breaches leaked atmosphere. Power systems flickered. Minasio worked frantically in engineering, trying to keep the ship together. Casualties were mounting. Hyunwoo made his decision. He could withdraw now, save his ship and crew. Or he could finish this and make sure the Kryn never came back to New Harvest. All power to engines, he ordered. Set collision course with the Kryn flagship. Bora looked at him. Captain, that's suicide. No, Hyunwoo said calmly. That's sending a message. Do it. The Indomitable accelerated directly at Gartok's flagship. Every Kryn weapon fired at the human ship. Shields collapsed. Armor melted. Sections of the hull tore away. But the Indomitable didn't stop. At the last second, Hyunwoo fired every remaining missile they had. The weapon slammed into the Kryn flagship's bridge at point-blank range. The explosion was massive. The flagship broke in half, spinning dead in space. The remaining Kryn ships broke formation and ran. On the surface, the raiders saw their fleet fleeing and knew the battle was lost. Some tried to fight to the end. Most just ran for their ships, desperate to escape. The Battle of New Harvest was over. The Indomitable limped into stable orbit, trailing debris and venting atmosphere. 47 crew members were dead. Nearly 200 were wounded. But they had won. On the surface, Sung-ho helped load Quellan families onto dropships. The Quellans stared at their human rescuers with wonder and gratitude. One small child, barely old enough to walk, approached Marine Corporal Ji-hai and offered her a flower from the fields. Ji-hai knelt down, removed her helmet, and accepted the flower with gentle hands. She had tears in her eyes. A news crew captured the moment. That image would spread across the galaxy within hours. Yoon-mi stood with Sung-ho watching the evacuation. She still couldn't believe it. You came. You actually came. Of course we did, Sung-ho said simply. You needed help. What else would we do? Across the galaxy, billions watched the footage. One human ship arriving when everyone said it was impossible. Humans fighting for strangers they had never met. Humans bleeding and dying to save people who couldn't save themselves. The word spread like fire through space. Humanity. The species that came when no one else would. News traveled fast in the galaxy. Within hours of the Battle of New Harvest, every major station in Council space was broadcasting the footage. Reporters from a dozen species analyzed every second of combat. Military experts studied the tactics. Civilians watched in amazement. The images were stunning. One small human ship fighting 15 Kryn battle barges. Human fighters swarming like angry insects. Marines landing in the middle of enemy territory. And the final moment when the Indomitable charged the Kryn flagship, damaged and burning but refusing to quit. But the image that touched the most hearts was simple. A small Quellan child offering a flower to a human Marine, the Marine accepting it with tears in her eyes. That single moment showed more than any battle footage could. At Threshold Prime, the Galactic Council gathered again in emergency session. The great chamber buzzed with conversation and argument. Holographic displays showed the battle replaying from multiple angles. Some representatives watched in admiration, others watched in fear. High Chancellor Mordeth called for order. His voice was strained. We have all seen what happened at New Harvest. The human ship Indomitable engaged the Kryn fleet without Council authorization. They deployed military force in Council-protected space. We must address this violation of protocol. Liaison Daeho stood in the back of the chamber. He wasn't supposed to speak during Council sessions, but he stepped forward anyway. With respect, Chancellor. Violation of protocol. 150,000 Quellan are alive today because humans violated your protocol. The chamber went silent. A junior liaison questioning the High Chancellor was almost unheard of. But Daeho continued. This council declared New Harvest unsavable. You sent a memorial fleet instead of a rescue. You abandoned them because saving them was inconvenient. Humans have a saying. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? Commander Vexathari of the Chitauri stood up. His mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The human speaks truth. I have analyzed their combat data. Their technology is primitive by our standards. Kinetic weapons. Chemical propulsion. Nuclear fusion. We abandoned these technologies thousands of years ago. Yet they defeated the Kryn. How? A representative from the reptilian species spoke up. Obviously, their weapons are more advanced than we knew. This human jump drive technology is deeply concerning. They moved across the galaxy faster than anything we've ever seen. That's not the answer, Vexthari said quietly. I've studied their tactics. They didn't win because of technology. They won because they were fighting for something we had forgotten. They fought to save lives, not to enforce law or maintain order. There is a difference. A profound difference. Before anyone could respond, an alarm sounded. A Quellan representative had arrived requesting emergency speaking time. It was Ambassador Hana, recently evacuated from New Harvest. She had traveled directly from the rescue ships to Threshold Prime. Mordeth granted her permission to speak. Hana stepped to the center of the chamber. She was thin and weak, still recovering from her ordeal, but her voice was strong. This council debated for 6 hours about whether to help my people. 6 hours of discussion about protocols and procedures and feasibility. In that time, humanity launched a rescue. They didn't debate. They didn't study options. They just came. They crossed 5 weeks of space in 3 days. They fought for us when we were strangers. Hana looked around the chamber at each representative. Where were you? Where were any of you? We sent our distress signal and you sent your condolences. Humans sent their soldiers. This council talks about civilization and order. But humanity showed us what civilization really means. It means you come when someone calls for help, even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, even when it seems impossible. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species agreed with Hana, shame evident in their voices. Others argued that humanity was dangerous and unpredictable. A few pointed out that humans had revealed technology that changed the balance of power in the galaxy. The jump drive alone made humanity a major player overnight. The argument continued for hours. Finally, Mordeth called for a vote. The question before us is simple. Should humanity be granted full council membership? Or should we treat this incident as a violation requiring sanctions? Before the vote could begin, something unexpected happened. The Chitauri representative, Commander Vexthari, stood and walked across the chamber to where Deho stood. He extended one clawed hand in the human gesture of respect. If humanity is sanctioned for saving lives, then the Chitauri will withdraw from this council. We will no longer be part of an organization that punishes heroism. Other representatives stood. The Quellan, the Selkath, the bird-like Kesteri. One by one, species announced they would support humanity or withdraw from the council entirely. Within minutes, the political landscape had completely shifted. Mordeth looked old and tired. He had been High Chancellor for 40 years. He had maintained peace through careful diplomacy. Now he was watching that careful balance shift, because one species had done something simple and profound. They had helped. Far from Threshold Prime in the deep reaches of Kryn space, a different kind of meeting was happening. The Kryn War Council gathered in their fortress world. War chiefs from across the Empire attended, their armor still bearing scars from countless battles. War Chief Racknell stood before them. He was younger than Gartok had been, but bigger and meaner. Gartok had been his brother. Now Gartok was dead, killed by humans, and Racknell would have revenge. The humans humiliated us, he growled. One ship destroyed 15 of our battle barges. They defeated our raiders on the ground. They broadcast our defeat to the entire galaxy. The Kryn are now a joke. Species that once feared us now laugh. This cannot stand. The war chiefs roared their agreement. But one old warrior, scarred and wise, spoke up. We underestimated them once. What makes you think we won't again? These humans fight differently. They don't retreat. They don't surrender. And they have this jump drive that makes distance meaningless. Racknell bared his teeth. Then we will study them. We will learn their weaknesses. And we will strike where it hurts them most. We will attack Earth itself. We will destroy their homeworld and take this jump drive technology for ourselves. The Kryn will be feared again. He began gathering the largest Kryn armada in history, 300 battle barges, 50,000 raiders, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. The mobilization was impossible to hide. Council intelligence detected it within days. But the Kryn's target remained unclear. Back on Earth, Captain Hyunwoo lay in a hospital bed recovering from injuries sustained at New Harvest. His crew was scattered across multiple facilities, getting treatment and rest. The Indomitable was in orbital dock, being repaired by every engineer Earth could spare. Fleet Admiral Jiwan visited him personally. She looked at his bandaged body and shook her head. You're a hero, Hyunwoo. The whole galaxy is talking about you. I was just doing my job, he said quietly. Are the Quellens safe? Every single one. Thanks to you and your crew. She paused. But we have a problem. Council intelligence reports that the Kryn are mobilizing. Big mobilization. We think they're coming for revenge. Hyunwoo tried to sit up, wincing at the pain. Where are they going to attack? We don't know yet. But if I were them, I'd be looking at Earth. We embarrassed them. They'll want to make a statement. On New Harvest, the rebuilding had already begun. Director Eunmi worked alongside Quellen survivors, clearing rubble and replanting fields. But something amazing was happening. Ships were arriving from across the galaxy. Not military ships. Civilian vessels, volunteers. Chitauri engineers came to help rebuild structures. Selkath doctors came to treat the wounded. Kestari pilots brought supplies. Even a few Kryn arrived, deserters who were disgusted by their own people's brutality. They all came because they had watched humans risk everything to save strangers. They wanted to be part of something larger than themselves. Lieutenant Sung Ho, who had stayed behind to coordinate security, watched the volunteers working together. Different species, different languages, different cultures, all united by a simple idea: help each other. Don't abandon people. Make things better. An old Quellen farmer approached him. Why did you come? We are nothing to your people. You could have died for us. Why take that risk? Sung Ho thought about it. On Earth, we almost destroyed ourselves once. Wars, pollution, hatred. We came so close to extinction. But we survived because enough people decided to help instead of hurt. We learned that we're all connected. Your pain is our pain. Your survival matters to us. That's why we came. The farmer nodded slowly. You have given us more than our lives. You have given us hope that the galaxy can be better. At Threshold Prime, the Council finally voted on humanity's status. After 2 days of debate, the result was announced. Humanity would be granted full Council membership, but with conditions. They would need to share the jump drive technology with other Council species. They would need to coordinate military actions. They would need to follow protocols. Daeho, now elevated to full ambassador, accepted the conditions. He knew Earth would agree. Humans didn't want to dominate. They wanted to help. Sharing technology was fine. Working together was fine, as long as 3 days after the Battle of New Harvest, Fleet Admiral Jiwan arrived at Threshold Prime aboard the UDS Defiant. The ship was smaller than the Indomitable, but carried Earth's most advanced diplomatic equipment. Jiwan wasn't coming to celebrate. She was coming to answer for what humanity had done. The Galactic Council chamber felt different this time, more tense, more uncertain. The representatives who had once barely noticed humans now watched Jiwan carefully as she walked to the center of the room. Some looked grateful. Others looked afraid. Fear and gratitude were close neighbors. High Chancellor Mordeth spoke first. His voice was formal and cold. Fleet Admiral Jiwan, humanity deployed military force in Council-protected space without authorization. You violated numerous treaties that Earth signed. You used technology that we knew nothing about. This Council demands an explanation. Jiwan stood straight, her uniform clean and pressed. She had expected this. With respect, Chancellor, we saved 150,000 lives that you declared unsavable. If that's a violation, then yes, we're guilty. But we won't apologize for saving people. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some species approved. Others shifted uncomfortably. Commander Vexathari leaned forward. This jump drive technology. How long have you possessed it? We've been testing it for 18 months. New Harvest was its first long-range deployment under combat conditions. The chamber erupted in noise. Representatives shouted questions and accusations. 18 months? Humanity had possessed technology that could change the galaxy for 18 months and told no one. What else were they hiding? Mordeth raised his hand for silence. You understand this changes everything. Your jump drive makes distance almost meaningless. You can strike anywhere in the galaxy within days. You can reach places we cannot reach. This makes humanity a major military power overnight. This destabilizes centuries of careful balance. Or, Jiwan said calmly, it means rescue becomes possible where once it was impossible. It means no one has to die alone waiting for help that will never come. That's what we built it for. Not conquest, not power, rescue. Ambassador Hana of the Quellen stood up. She still looked weak from her ordeal, but her voice was strong. This council spent 6 hours debating protocols while my people died. Humanity launched a rescue in minutes. They didn't ask permission. They didn't wait for approval. They just came. If this council punishes them for that, then this council stands for nothing. The issue is not the rescue, another representative argued. The issue is the technology. Humanity has fundamentally changed the strategic balance. We need guarantees. We need oversight. You need to understand something, Jiwan interrupted. Everyone fell silent. It was rare for anyone to interrupt council proceedings. Earth almost died. Our history is full of wars and hatred and cruelty. We know what it's like to be afraid. We know what it's like to need help and not get it. That's why we built the jump drive. That's why we went to New Harvest. Not because we wanted power, but because we remembered what it felt like to be helpless and alone. She looked around the chamber at each species. You want guarantees? Here's one. The next time someone sends a distress signal, humans will come. Always. We don't care if it's convenient. We don't care if it's safe. We don't care if you approve. We will come. That's what we promise. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then something unexpected happened. Commander Vexithari stood and walked to Jiwan. He extended his clawed hand in the human gesture of respect. The Chitauri support full council membership for humanity with no conditions. If this council cannot recognize heroism when it sees it, then we have lost our way. Other representatives stood. The Quellan, the Selkath, the Kastari. Within minutes, 8 of the 12 council species had declared support for humanity. The vote was no longer close. Mordeth looked tired. Very well. Humanity is granted full council membership effective immediately. Ambassador Deho will represent Earth in all official matters. But humanity must understand that with membership comes responsibility. You cannot act alone anymore. You must coordinate. You must communicate, Jiwan nodded. We understand. As long as the next distress signal gets answered with action instead of debate. While the council debated humanity's future, the Kryn prepared for war. War Chief Racknall stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Destroyer of Hope. Around him in space, 300 battle barges assembled in formation. It was the largest Kryn fleet in 50 years. His second-in-command approached. The fleet is ready, War Chief, but the target is heavily defended. Earth has orbital platforms, defense satellites in their fleet. Intelligence says they're building more ships with the jump drive. Let them build, Racknall growled. We have 300 ships. They have 20 at most. Numbers will crush them, and when we take Earth, we take their technology. The jump drive will belong to the Kryn. Then the galaxy will fear us again. He studied the tactical displays. Earth was 4 weeks away by Kryn drive systems, but that was fine. He wanted Earth to see them coming. He wanted them to be afraid. Fear made prey easier to kill. Send scouts ahead, he ordered. I want to know everything about Earth's defenses. How many ships? How many soldiers? Where their shipyards are, everything. Back on Earth, engineer Mincio worked around the clock in the orbital shipyards. She looked exhausted, running on coffee and determination. 5 new ships were under construction, and she was trying to fit each one with a jump drive. The technology wasn't meant to be mass-produced this quickly. Every ship was different, requiring custom modifications. Captain Hyun-woo, released from the hospital against doctor's orders, came to visit her. His ribs were still bandaged, but he moved carefully. How's it going? Minso rubbed her eyes. I can do 5 ships in 3 weeks if nothing goes wrong. But Hyun-woo, these drives are experimental. We got lucky at New Harvest. One of these could fail and tear a ship apart. I can't guarantee they'll all work. We don't need guarantees, he said gently. We need a chance. That's all anyone can ask for. She showed him the designs. The 5 ships were different classes. 2 destroyers. 2 cruisers. 1 carrier. Each would have different capabilities, but all would have jump drives. Combined with the repaired Indomitable, that gave Earth 6 ships that could move faster than anything else in the galaxy. 6 against 300. The math was brutal. On New Harvest, something beautiful was happening. The colony was rebuilding faster than anyone expected. Volunteers from across the galaxy worked alongside Quellan families. Chitauri engineers designed new buildings. Selkath doctors treated the wounded. Kastari pilots brought supplies from nearby systems. Director Yoon-mi walked through the construction sites with Lieutenant Sung-ho. I can't believe how many came to help, she said. There must be 10,000 volunteers here now. Humanity reminded them what they'd forgotten, Sung-ho replied. That we're supposed to help each other. That's what civilization means. It's not about laws and treaties. It's about beings taking care of beings. A group of young volunteers approached them. They represented 7 different species, but they wore matching armbands with a simple symbol. A hand reaching out to help another hand. They called themselves the Unity Corps. Their leader, a Chitauri named Bora, spoke up. Lieutenant Sung-ho, we want to learn from humans. We want to understand how you do what you do. How do you decide so quickly to help? How do you know when to risk everything? Sung-ho thought about it. It's not complicated. You see someone who needs help. You ask yourself if you can help them. If the answer is yes, you help. If the answer is maybe, you try anyway. The only wrong answer is to walk away without trying. But what if helping is dangerous? Another volunteer asked. What if you might die? Then you might die helping someone, Sung-ho said simply. That's better than living while someone else dies and you did nothing. At least that's how humans see it. At Threshold Prime, young representatives from different species began meeting in secret. Not the official ambassadors, but their assistants and junior staff. They met in private rooms away from the main council chambers. Among them were Chitauri, Selkath, Quellan, Kestari, and even a few others. They called themselves the Alliance, though that name wasn't official yet. They watched what humanity had done at New Harvest and wanted to be part of it. They were tired of the council's slow debates and careful politics. They wanted to act. Commander Vexithari, though officially a council representative, met with them. He was older than the others, but he understood what they felt. The council will never move fast enough, he told them. By the time they agree to help, the crisis is over. But if we form our own network, we can respond quickly. We can be ready when the next distress signal comes. Daeho, now Earth's full ambassador, attended these meetings. You understand this could end your careers? If the council finds out you're organizing outside official channels, there will be consequences. A Selkath named Yuna smiled. We watched your species risk everything to save strangers. If we're not willing to risk our careers to do the same, what does that say about us? They began planning, sharing communication protocols, positioning ships in strategic locations, creating supply caches, building a network that could respond to crises in hours instead of weeks. Intelligence reports reached Earth about Kryn fleet movements. The numbers were terrifying. 300 ships. But the Kryn armada emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. 300 battle barges arranged in perfect formation, blotting out the stars. War Chief Raknal stood on the bridge of the destroyer of Hope and smiled. Earth hung in the distance like a blue jewel waiting to be crushed. He opened a channel that broadcast across all frequencies, making sure the entire galaxy could hear. Humans, you embarrassed the Kryn at New Harvest. You made us look weak. Now we will erase your species from existence. Surrender your jump drive technology and your death will be quick. Resist and we will burn your world until nothing lives. From Earth's United Defense Command in Geneva, Fleet Admiral Jiwan responded. Her voice was calm and clear. Come and take it. Earth's defense fleet assembled between the Kryn and their homeworld. 18 warships total. The Indomitable led them with Captain Hyunwoo back in command. 5 ships had the new jump drives that engineer Min Seo had installed. 12 more had conventional weapons. Against 300 Kryn battle barges, the odds were impossible. On Earth's surface, Lieutenant Sung-ho and his Marines prepared planetary defenses. If the fleet failed, they would be humanity's last stand. Cities built underground shelters, weapons platforms powered up. 10 billion people looked to the sky and wondered if they would survive the day. Then something happened that changed everything. Ships began arriving from across the galaxy. Not council ships, not official military vessels, but volunteers. The first to arrive were the Quellan, 30 civilian transports, retrofitted with whatever weapons the peaceful species could mount. They weren't strong ships, but they positioned themselves between Earth and the Kryn anyway. Ambassador Hana broadcast from the lead ship. You saved us when no one else would. We will not abandon you. Then came the Chitauri. Commander Vexithari led 12 military vessels, officially on training exercises but taking position alongside Earth's fleet. The Selkath arrived with medical ships and shield generators. The Kestari sent fighter squadrons. The avian pilots were among the best in the galaxy. One by one, species arrived. Not because they were ordered. Not because of treaties, but because they chose to. They had watched humanity risk everything to save strangers. Now they would do the same. War Chief Raknal watched the defenders gathering and laughed. Even with reinforcements, his enemies were outnumbered 3-1. His weapons were stronger. His ships were bigger. This would be a massacre. He ordered the attack. The battle began at the orbit of Mars. Kryn battle barges advanced in massive wall formations, shields overlapping, concentrating their firepower on breakthrough points. Earth's fleet met them with desperate courage. The ships with jump drives flickered in and out of combat, striking from impossible angles and disappearing before the Kryn could respond. Captain Hyunwoo led the jump drive squadron personally. They were the key to everything. Fast enough to disrupt Kryn formations, deadly enough to cripple enemy ships. But there were only 6 of them against hundreds. Pilot Bora flew the Indomitable like she was dancing with death. Roll, fire, jump, reappear behind enemy lines, fire again, jump out. The Kryn targeting systems couldn't track them. But each jump stressed the experimental drives. Minseo watched her engineering displays with growing fear. The jumps were tearing the ships apart slowly. The Quellan transport Aurora's Hope moved to protect a damaged Chitauri cruiser. Kryn weapons fire concentrated on the transport. Its shields collapsed. Its hull breached. The ship exploded in a ball of fire, killing all 300 Quellan volunteers aboard. Kastari fighters swarmed Kryn battle barges in suicide runs. The small craft dove directly into enemy engines and reactors, trading their lives for damaged warships. Dozens of Kastari died in minutes, but they bought time for larger ships to reposition. The numbers were overwhelming. Ships began to fall. Human destroyers, Selkath medical vessels, Chitauri cruisers. The defenders were losing, being pushed back toward Earth orbit. Then engineer Minseo made a discovery. She was analyzing sensor data when she noticed something. The Kryn overlapping shield strategy created resonance patterns. The shields reinforced each other, but that reinforcement created a specific frequency signature. If they could match that frequency exactly and hit multiple points simultaneously, they could cascade a shield failure across an entire formation. She called Captain Hyunwoo. I think I found a weakness, but it requires perfect coordination. Every jump ship has to strike at the exact same moment. If we're off by even a second, it won't work. Can we do it? He asked. I don't know. We've never tried anything like this. It requires trusting ships from different species to coordinate perfectly. Hyunwoo thought about New Harvest, about the volunteers who came to rebuild, about the alliance forming in secret, about species learning to work together. Set it up. They'll follow. Fleet Admiral Jawan broadcast the plan to all defending ships. Human vessels would execute synchronized jump strikes. Every other ship would concentrate fire on the same targets the instant the shields failed. It required trust between species that barely knew each other. It required coordination across different technologies and languages. It required believing that they could work together. Director Yunmi watched from a command center on Earth's surface. She thought about the Quellan child who gave a flower to Marine Corporal Ji Hai. She thought about volunteers from across the galaxy working together to rebuild New Harvest. She whispered, "This is how you change a galaxy, not with weapons, with trust." The jump ships positioned themselves around the Kryn formation. Captain Hyunwoo's voice was calm as he gave the countdown. All ships execute on my mark. 3, 2, 1, jump. 6 human ships vanished and reappeared simultaneously in the heart of the Kryn fleet. They fired on the exact resonance points Minseo had calculated. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the Kryn shields began to fail. Not just one ship, the entire formation. The shield cascade spread from ship to ship like dominoes falling. Hundreds of battle barges suddenly found themselves vulnerable. Every defending ship fired everything they had: railguns, missiles, energy weapons, kinetic torpedoes. The concentrated fire was devastating. 15 Kryn battle barges exploded in the first salvo. 20 more were crippled. The perfect Kryn formation collapsed into chaos. War Chief Raknal screamed orders, trying to reorganize his fleet. But the defenders pressed their advantage. The jump ships continued their strikes, appearing and disappearing, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. Chitauri cruisers focused on crippled enemies, finishing what the jump ships started. Kastari fighters harassed the flanks, preventing the Kryn from regrouping. Raknal realized his mistake too late. He had underestimated not just humanity's courage, but their ability to inspire others. He had underestimated what happened when different species worked together, not because they were forced to, but because they believed in each other. The Kryn Armada began to retreat, but Admiral Jiwan wouldn't let them leave easily. All ships pursue. The galaxy needs to see what happens when you attack people under our protection. The human fleet, coordinating with their allies, chased the retreating Kryn, not to destroy them all. Humanity wasn't interested in genocide, but to send a message, to show every species watching that bullies who attacked the innocent would face consequences. The Destroyer of Hope, Ragnall's flagship, was crippled by railgun fire from the Indomitable. The massive ship spun helplessly, its engines destroyed, its weapons offline. Ragnall stood on his damaged bridge and realized he had lost. The mighty Kryn horde had been driven away by defenders who should have been easy prey. He broadcast his surrender. It was the first time in Kryn history that their leadership had bowed to anyone. The battle for Sol was over. The cost had been terrible. Humanity lost 6 ships and 4,000 people. Their allies lost thousands more. The Aurora's Hope, the Chitauri cruiser Morning Light, hundreds of Kastari fighters. The names would be remembered, but Earth stood. Humanity survived, and the galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. In the days after the battle, the Galactic Council held a formal session. Every species attended. High Chancellor Mordeth looked different now. Older maybe, or just humbler. He addressed the assembled representatives with a tired voice. The Council has witnessed something that shames us. We pride ourselves on maintaining order, but we forgot why order matters. Humanity reminded us. They showed us that laws and treaties mean nothing if we're not willing to stand up for each other. He looked directly at Fleet Admiral Jiwan and Ambassador Deho. Humanity came to the galaxy as strangers. We treated them as primitives. We barely noticed them. Then a distress signal came from New Harvest, and while we debated, humans acted. They saved lives we declared unsavable. And when the Kryn came for revenge, species from across the galaxy stood with humanity. Not because of treaties, not because of alliances, but because humans had shown them what courage looks like. The chamber was silent. This council formally recognizes humanity as a full member with all rights and privileges. Furthermore, the informal coalition that defended Earth is recognized as the Mutual Defense Alliance. Any species may join. Its purpose is simple. No distress, see,